Hey, get ready for episode 2 of season 1 of the Sponsorship X podcast, where we're focused all on ROI. And today we have a special focus on cause-driven sponsorships. This is an opportunity for hear from an all-star panel about how they measure success in this area that is often overlooked at conferences that are filled with more traditional sponsorships. For the brands, the nonprofits and charities and purpose-driven organizations out there, this is the episode for you. It's going to be moderated by Espanda Ghorbannia from CONVOY Communications. And on this amazing panel, she's got Jennifer Fries from TIFF. She's the Chief Business and Marketing Officer. The Head of Brand for GE Appliances Canada, Bob Park. And Jenny Yuen, who leads Partnerships, People, and Culture at Kids Help Phone. So, get your pencil out. Time to take some notes. Get ready to learn a lot about cause-driven sponsorships. Episode 2, Season 1 of the Sponsorship X podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live podcast recording for measuring success in cause-driven sponsorships. My name is Espanda Ghorbannia. I am the founder and principal of CONVOY Communications, and I will be your host today. So today we are diving into the world of purpose-led partnerships, how organizations measure impact, drive meaningful change, and create lasting value through sponsorships. We have an incredible panel here today of experts that are here to share their insights, their learnings, and real-life case studies for us. So joining us today, we have, to my right, we have Jenny Yuen. Jenny is the Group Head and Executive Vice President for People, Culture, and Partnerships at Kids Help Phone. Following, we have Bob Park. He is the Chief Brand Officer at GE Appliances Canada. And last but not least, we have Jennifer Fries, or Jen, and she, whatever, call me whatever you want. And she is the Chief Business and Marketing Officer for TIFF. So let's just give a round of applause for everybody here. Okay, so we're going to kick things off with a couple of questions for all of you, just to get everybody acquainted and learn a little bit more about each of you. So in no particular order, let's start by just telling us a little bit about yourselves. If you have an interesting fact or random fact maybe people don't know about, light however you want to go.
Sounds good. So thanks for joining us, everybody. An interesting fact about me. So I am a competitive softball player. I have the privilege of playing with some, I call them kids because they're half my age, literally, who used to play D1. And so we actually play slow pitch, and we won a couple of medals, like gold last year for Ontario, and actually, unfortunately, beating the BC team. So we're coming out here this. Okay. We're coming out here this summer for a rematch.
Amazing. Thank you.
Ladies first? No? Okay. I'm Bob Park. Fun fact, I don't know if it's fun. I actually grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, so I am actually an Edmonton Oilers fan. But I went to school here, so I actually spent a lot of my life in Vancouver, and unfortunately now I live in Toronto.
Except you love the snacks on Porter, we learned. So that's it's worth the flight.
But he's getting sick of the cheese.
Yeah. So I'm Jen, and it's actually so fun because I'm looking out and I know so many of you. So it feels a little bit like summer camp coming here and seeing everyone. So that's a little hard because some of you know me. You might know a lot about me already. So fun fact, I was born in the Black Forest of Germany, and what I've learned about myself is that when I'm away from woodland for any long period of time, I kind of start to wilt. So I actually recently left from living downtown in Toronto to living outside of the city, and I bought a place that's surrounded by woodland. And I just would like to say all that they say about forest bathing and mental health is true. So that should be a takeaway from today.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. So guiding our conversation a little bit, I'd love to hear from each of you in terms of cause-driven marketing. So what is the most unique cause-driven marketing campaign that you've seen? Doesn't have to be one that you've done, just one that you've seen and one that's really stood out to you and had a lasting impact.
Sure, I can start. We're gonna work our way back. Maybe I don't know if it's the most unique anymore, but 20 years ago it was really unique, and it changed my entire worldview, and it completely changed my career actually. So I guess I was probably, I'm not gonna say my age, but it was like 20 years ago. I was in university, and I came across this organization that had just started called Rethink Breast Cancer. My mother actually had breast cancer while I was in high school, and it was very traumatic for our entire family. And I decided I wanted to do some volunteer work, and I wanted to get more involved, especially around breast cancer charity. And then I came across this charity called Rethink, and it was totally earth-shattering for me, the things that they were doing. It was cool. There were no pink ribbons. It was all about, parties and bringing young people together, bringing awareness around breast cancer to young people in ways that were really meaningful for that audience segment. And it was really motivating for me. And I actually ended up contacting them. And then we ended up doing this really fun T-shirt campaign at the Western campus. And did anyone go to Western here? Western? Okay, amazing. So we could get away with some stuff at Western. And so we did this T-shirt campaign, and it was all different ways to say breasts, like really bold, written on these T-shirts. And it was super provocative. And it was really sexy and really kind of exciting. And we led this campaign, and in like 2.5 days, we made like 20 grand in T-shirt sales for breast cancer. I got a call from Rethink. I became their intern that summer. I started working on their Fashion Targets breast cancer campaign, which was in partnership with Holt Renfrew at the time. We were doing partnerships, with the international breast cancer associations, and running the Booby Ball event, which was, if anyone remembered that, the sexiest event to go to. It was so cool. All the cool kids went. So what it made me realize is that charity can be really compelling. Charity can be sexy, and charity can really be relevant for all different stages of life and all different types of people if you target really effectively.
It's amazing.
That's great.
I think I went to one of those.
Yeah. We partied together, I'm sure.
It was sexy.
I'm trying to think of what I would put across my chest.
For me, probably looking back, like I would say that I'm not actually traditionally a cause marketer. It was never a big part of my DNA, especially we're here at an ROI forum, and I didn't really see a lot of ROI from it. Actually, if you'd asked me many years ago, I won't say how many because I don't want to date myself. But it's interesting because one campaign that really stood out to me, that really had an impact on me, was not that many years ago, but it was Colin Kaepernick kneeled during the anthem. And that was a very controversial topic. There was a certain segment of people who really supported it and a certain segment of people that didn't. So typically as a corporation, you would not, you remain on the sidelines. You have to play it safe because you have investors, stock, all these different things that you have to answer for, and it's better just not to get involved. So what really stood out to me is, definitely one of the largest brands in sports, Nike, actually got behind Colin Kaepernick. They went the other way and actually did an entire series of campaigns, not just one, but more than one, really endorsing and supporting what he did. So that was really, it was real. It was also so genuine to me because that is Nike's DNA from day one. They're not a sports brand that sticks to just the norm and the safe. They've made their brand by being different, by pushing the envelope, supporting. Even now, it does not seem disingenuous when they support women's sports. It seems very, very real. So that had a huge impact on me.
Definitely that authenticity side that we're really starting to see brands really needing to lead into. I'll build off of that from an authenticity standpoint. So I posed this question to our team, and I'm like, we really shouldn't pick our own. Let's expand the realm a bit, and we actually asked some of our agency partners as well. And the feedback did actually come back about one of our campaigns. So I'll tell you that it's not self-serving. They told me to say this. So No Lonely Lunches is a recent campaign that we actually just launched this past back to school period in 2024. We developed it together with Lactalis Canada, and it was imagine back to school time. So it's the highest volume and sense of anxiety for young people in the year. It's our highest volume point outside of holidays. lunches, which are so key. We're all packing lunches. Kids are packing lunches. Snacks are very important. Iconic snack like cheese strings. And then we heard from young people, and we used our data, right? So we said, what are we hearing from young people at the beginning of school? Lots of worry about bullying, lots of worry about social interactions. And so Lactalis really engaged us from the very beginning to build this campaign together with them. And they said, you know what? If Cheese Strings is one of our most iconic brands, their sales are already quite high. So it's not that they needed more sales. It's just, what is the brand that relates most to the story you're trying to tell from a kid's cell phone perspective? And then we co-created No Lonely Lunches, which is the idea that, if you pack a snack and you are a young person who is in school and you notice someone who is potentially isolated or you're trying to make friends, you could actually pass a snack of cheese strings. Most kids like it, and they actually had it branded with Kids Help Phone. And so that campaign drove, I think it was like 25 million impressions in a very short amount of time. The majority of it, about 95% of it, was organic. And the media pickup was from food and lifestyle to marketing to, traditional media. And the stories that we were hearing back from young people was that it was something super simple, but it actually did start the conversation amongst peers. And that really helped that kind of decrease that sense of loneliness. So it was an element of using our data and what we're hearing to two authentic brands coming together and really trying to reach a younger market, because we were really trying to help a younger group practice the element of help-seeking behavior and making connections.
But don't you find that's always the kicker when you build it together?
Oh, that's wild. But that's the thing. I think we are having more and more of our partners come together, and we'll talk about it a little later in a few examples, but building it together, it's not just we're going to sell this product and we'll give you 10 cents each, right? So we raised the funds that we needed to raise, but also more importantly, got the reach and story out there.
As a marketer, you're often told, listen to your customer. Sometimes they're going to tell you what they want. Other times they're going to give you clues of what you want. That's why me and the SponsorBex team have created what we're calling SBX Basecamp. This is a high elevation experience for marketing leaders. If you're responsible for growth and brand development in your organization, or perhaps you're an entrepreneur, or perhaps you're a change maker, then Basecamp is for you. August 14th to 16th in Whistler, British Columbia. You're not going to come into a setting with keynote presentations and lots of PowerPoint. In fact, there aren't going to be any screens. You're going to work together collaboratively with your peers. You're going to be guided by expert facilitators who are consultants and thought leaders from around the world. And you're going to sit down and face this opportunity to decide, what is your future going to look like? How are you going to get your organization there? And how are you going to personally reinvent yourself to make sure that happens? August 14th to 16th, Whistler, British Columbia. Sign up today, sponsorshipx.com/basecamp.
Amazing. And I think too, kind of leading in, it's a perfect segue because, and you might have another example for this, but it's great to hear, all of the examples over a period of time and just seeing the evolution of everything. But ultimately it's really about having meaningful impact through this work, right? So I guess, you've shared an example, Jenny, so maybe we'll go through the rounds with everybody, but is there, and I know for yourself too, Jen, it was an example of something you were involved in the past, but maybe at your current organization, if you have an example of something that you've championed in terms of cause marketing that's really stood out for you and maybe had a surprising outcome or an element that was unexpected, we'd love to hear some other examples from you guys.
Sure. I can start for TIFF, and I will say I absolutely will not take credit for starting this thing because it was started by an extraordinary group of women. Again, external to the actual employees of the organization, senior volunteers, also sort of broader volunteers, people from within the industry, as well as our leadership team, everyone coming together. Around 2016, we really started to want to tackle the issue of gender equity on screen and behind the camera as well. And it was really interesting because it sounds like, that's less than 10 years ago. And it sounds like, we've been talking about this forever. We haven't. It's actually only been like 9 years that we've really been focused on this conversation. The representation of women in front of and behind the camera was absolutely abysmal 10 years ago. It's still not great, but it is getting better. And I think it's because of initiatives like this. So it was a group coming together, championed by some extraordinary, like I say, board members, leaders from within our organization, called Share Her Journey. And this was, again, 2016. And I think we all maybe remember 2017 is when the Me Too movement happened, and that's when the Weinstein scandal broke. So it was so, like, they were prescient, like they knew that there was this problem going on before the rest of the world was even really talking about it. And it became this movement. And it really was led by TIFF. And we had amazing partners around the world. The Reframe Project, 50/50 was another one that we worked with. And we all signed a pledge to say that we were going to ensure that our own programming, our own representation across our programming, our development initiatives, our staffing even, that we were going to reach certain equity thresholds. And, we're really, really proud to say that TIFF has been maintaining that over the past, how many years is that now? Yeah, 8-9 years. And continue to center that in our priorities. And I will say that that's something that others have not always been able to maintain. And so for me, it's just amazing when you see the right groups coming together, the whole organization and all of its key stakeholders coming together and agreeing that this is a priority. When everyone moves together, again, it's very kind of classic. If you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And that really came to life, I think, with Share Her Journey. And so now we're thinking about what is the future version of this as we look at our 50th edition coming up this year. It's still a problem. How are we going to tackle that in a meaningful way?
That's an incredible example. And I think, to be a part of that and to have that community, it just shows, especially around TIFF, it's more than just the festival, right? It's truly a meaningful community that's coming together and making important impact.
Yeah, and now I would say we also are considering the political implications of everything. Don't want to get too political here, but it feels just as relevant now as it did 10 years ago. And so we really want to think about what is our role on the global stage, and certainly coming from an amazing country like Canada, where we do have certain values around equality. And so that is something that we really feel that we can be torchbearers for.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Bob, is there anything you'd like to share?
Mine is actually, it goes back many, many years. It is GE had a multi-year strategy going back roughly about 5 years, knowing that two things. One, that the World Cup is coming to Canada next year, and we knew that was a high possibility at the time. We saw that soccer in Canada was the most participated sport. I'm going all ROI and statistics, most participated sport. And I was faced with the challenge that GE Appliances was, well, your grandfather's brand, your mom's brand, your dad's brand. We primarily appealed to a white demographic, and we wanted to change that. We wanted to get younger. Other brands were coming into the market that newcomers knew better than our brand. So if you weren't born here, you wouldn't know that. So we had a lot of work to do. Soccer just happens to be the most diverse sport played in the world. And that's primarily due to the cost of entry. It is an accessible sport, more so than hockey, for example. So if any of you have kids that are in hockey, you know what I'm talking about. All the stats pointed to it, and I took all of our chips and I put it in the center of the table, and I said, we're going to build a multi-year plan heading into the World Cup, and it's going to be built completely around soccer. And it went extremely well. I could say today, we're definitely one of the top partners of soccer. We are also one of the top partners of Canada Soccer, so the main organization in Canada. So if you guys have been reading the news the last couple of years, that organization's been mired in a lot of controversy. So it's actually a negative almost. And at one point, I was left at a crossroads. And what that crossroads was, where a lot of sponsors actually pulled out, major sponsors pulled out of Canada Soccer. And what it was they were not, the leadership of that organization at the time were not allocating the proper amount of funding from the men's team to the women's team. So it was highly publicized, a lot of negative publicity. And for any brands involved, does that reflect what your brand is trying to say? So I looked at it so carefully, and the easy thing to do would have been to pull out of Canada Soccer, pull out. I have an out clause in my contract and just get out of this multi-year plan. But the genuineness of why we're involved in soccer is the greatest single sporting event in the world is coming in 2026. We were committed to growing the sport. And then I looked at our mantra at GE, and it means good things for life, which is good things for everyone. So how do we change the dynamic of this and actually stick to our commitment and at the same time stick to our brand and not pull out? So a little bit of Colin Kaepernick, Nike inspiration. Instead of pulling our funding, I spoke to the president of Canada Soccer at the time, and I told him I'm going to write you a letter. It's going to be an open letter. It's going to go out on the wire, and I'm going to publicize it. And I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to give you $100,000 to direct to the women's team. The reason why it was $100,000 is the women's team were going to go play in the Women's World Cup in Australia, and some different items were coming out that the men's team would get first class flight and accommodations. So I said, I want that money to go to the women's team to pay for their trainers, their flights. They were literally sometimes paying out of pocket. It was totally unfair. It had a huge effect. And in fact, with that, it actually turned the narrative around. Canada Soccer took that money, gave it to the women's team. Needless to say, those people that were there at that time are no longer there. A huge amount of change. We actually started sparking that change. And now the women's team and the men's team, the books are open, and they've come to the table. And now they do get equal training money, equal preparation money, equal flight, equal accommodations to the men's team. So that little thing that we did started to spark that change. We didn't have to pull out as a sponsor, because all it means if sponsors like people that you have up here pull out, what it means is you stop supporting the sport. The best thing that an organization or a corporate organization can do is be a good corporate citizen and inspire and make change with the funding that we're given. So that was probably a really proud moment for our brand.
Hear, hear. That's amazing. I'll maybe go with our Feel Out Loud platform. So about 18 months ago, we worked with our agency partners at McCann Canada, and we developed and actually funny that you say Nike, they said, what if we had a platform that was like Nike? And I'm like, no effing way. Like, yes, but how are we going to do that for Kids Help Phone? And so again, the co-creation side is we went deeper. And so we created the Feel Out Loud platform, which is really understanding that young people will feel out loud in their way. But as long as young people understand that it is important to feel out loud, that's really the ultimate element that we're trying to drive with youth awareness. And so we developed a promise and a commitment that Kids Help Phone is a charity that unlocks the hope for young people to thrive in their world. And every single word means something. Unlocking the hope, it actually means that young people have the hope inside of them, that no one is gifting it to them, it's inherent. But what they may need is someone to help unlock it. Thriving in their world is probably my favorite part of it, because everyone's world looks different. So thriving is vibrant, but how they do it in their world is going to look different. So the element of how to feel out loud is really what Kids Help Phone can support and channel, and what we challenge the community to help young people. So with that platform, I would say that all of our cause-driven campaigns, all of our partnerships now stem from that one platform, where I find that incredibly unique from a social service standpoint, because not many have a platform. Most are saying, we have this campaign, what does it mean for you? How can we drive it? As opposed to Kids Help Phone now being able to drive the conversation and the authenticity of these campaigns. And what it unlocked was 50 artists, 50 Canadian artists, actually many of them who were Juno Award winners and nominated again this year, who came together and launched the Feel It Loud platform with an anthem. We didn't realize we were going to be record producers, but we did become a record producer with over 2 million streams. But that actually brought partners like Sony Music, Warner Music, all of the folks, and Universal. They all came together to help us amplify that. But again, from an authenticity standpoint of we need to channel and echo what Kids Help Phone's doing. And then we brought together last year our athletes. So athletes recognizing that even champions need champions. We signed up 6 iconic, heroic athletes that are Canadian born or represent Canadian teams. And then we brought another 100 athletes to help amplify that. 90% of that was driven through partnership with about 60 million impressions. And again, those 2 campaigns helped us build to be actually the #1 most trusted charity brand in Canada with adults and youth. So again, it's that driving of platform, then building out what those activations look like. That's really kind of led, I think, the opportunity for us to build stronger and stronger cause marketing programs.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think with all 3 of you here, it's just able to provide such a vast, range of examples of all the incredible work that you're doing that's really pushing the needle. And I think just hearing all of you, and your experiences, because you have so many initiatives that you've worked on over the years, maybe multiple simultaneously, maybe key ones throughout the time. Just to bring it back to kind of our conference here through ROI, I'd be curious to ask, each of you in terms of the campaigns that you've done. I imagine, in terms of how you measure success and impact, it varies drastically. But if you had to select one, campaign that you felt like really pushed the needle in terms of ROI, whatever that looked like for you, whatever your objectives were, would you be able to share what that might be for each of you?
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah. It's for any of you. Yeah.
Well, going back to soccer again, I mentioned before Colin Kaepernick. So interesting thing about that particular campaign or group of campaigns that Nike had over the time that they actually made that risk and supported Colin, their sales went up 30%. For an established shoe brand in one of the most difficult and competitive markets, that's insane. So really the lesson there is that being genuine, being real, understanding who your consumer demo is. Consumers are looking for champions. They're looking for brands and organizations to just be who they are and step up and do what they say they're going to do. So with GE, as I said, we were good things. Our motto is good things for life. And we know that, we build this great quality product and all of these things. And we are in Canadian homes. We're supporting Canadian families and they play soccer. So it was a really, really simple equation. And we stuck to that, especially since half the soccer players are girls. We stuck to that too. So we stuck to that. We wrote the letter. Those things happened. And we took readings on KPI. I mentioned that newcomers, other new ethnicities in Canada did not know who GE was. So we took actual independent studies, and before 4 out of 10 families involved in soccer knew who GE Appliances was, who we were. Just last year, we did the study, a year and a half ago, we did the study again, and 8 out of 10 now know who GE Appliances are. When we first started, 5 out of 10, would you buy or recommend a GE appliance from that same demo? It is now 9 out of 10 would buy or recommend. You don't buy an appliance every day. If you take care of it, you're going to buy an appliance every 8 to 10 years. So for us, it's being relevant, staying top of mind, so that when that family's ready to buy a dishwasher or a fridge, we're there, and they have that emotional attachment to our brand because we symbolize and we represent what they want to see. So we just believe in sticking with it, and every other piece of ROI will come into place as long as you're genuine.
I love that. I need you to come and introduce my session tomorrow on ROI and ROO, because that's exactly where we're going with that. But it's an interesting one. Further to our whole idea of co-creation, and also just really figuring out what your shared values are first. With any prospective sponsor and also existing sponsors. My example was from L'Oréal Paris a couple of years ago, and this is an interesting one because this was not actually a TIFF campaign. They brought us a completely separate campaign that they were already running with, and we saw the shared values in that. And they actually said to us, how are we going to integrate our existing cause campaign into what you do? It happened to meld so beautifully with what we were doing around Share Her Journey at the time. It was their Women of Impact work that they were doing, which just some of the most extraordinary work. And I actually think that we have a speaker here who was a Women of Impact from L'Oréal Paris a couple of years ago. So what they did was they came to us and said, how are we going to get Women of Impact recognition on a global stage on an ongoing basis, leverage this huge moment in the media with TIFF, and really draw attention to these women who deserve the world's biggest red carpet. And so we got that. So we thought, okay, how are we going to position them? How are we going to bring them in so that they are the stars that night? And we worked really closely with our programming team. We worked closely with them on, what was the appropriate theming of the content of the programming, what would the right moment be? And it just so happens the film that we did it at, and it was so fun looking back on this, because I'm like, hang on. It was the film Harriet, which was one of Cynthia Erivo's first starring roles. So already, she's already an emerging talent at that point, not even who she is today. And it was a huge gala red carpet premiere. And we brought the Women of Impact from that year out to that red carpet. And the mix of people who came through, it was just so amazing. And what I thought was so beautiful was that we always make announcements on our red carpet of who are these people who are coming out, so that the fans, and we're talking about people in the thousands, just droves of fans around the red carpet, we said who these people were. And so we introduced them, where they came from. The screams for those women, it was louder than for Cynthia Erivo. Like, it was just, the energy was so palpable. The love for what these women were doing on a social cause level, it was just so impactful. So when we were thinking about measurement for that one, it was obviously, how do we drive attention to and impressions towards the Women of Impact campaign, but also what's the sentiment we're driving around not only the L'Oréal Paris brand, but also the connection to our shared values and frankly, the connection to that audience and what they really care about, especially in that moment when it was such a hot topic. So I will say it also for me was a real eye opener, because it became so clear to me in that moment that celebs aren't always the ones who are going to drive that big, memorable, meaningful moment. Sometimes it actually is the real people. And it's real stories, and it's stories of humanity that actually bring us all together and move people, and actually move people towards brands also when they feel connected to who we are as humans. And so actually, when I look back at the how the social content played for that day, the strongest performance of the social content was not a Cynthia Erivo post. It was not one of the talents. It was the legally blind fashion and beauty influencer who brought her Seeing Eye Dog, first ever Seeing Eye Dog, on the gala red carpet. And that was the strongest performing content. So really speaks to the power of people and community.
If you're like most sponsored marketers, ROI probably keeps you up at night. That's why the Sponsorship X ROI Forum in Vancouver was such a big success. And now you can access 17 sessions from that conference on demand for just $299 Canadian. Go to the Sponsorship X Forum website and go to ROI Forum on demand. And there you'll find masterclasses, workshops, keynotes that will inform you about everything from ROI versus RO, valuation versus evaluation, fan sentiment as a metric, so you can sharpen your saw and up your game when it comes to ROI. These valuable resources not only include the presentation on stage, but also an opportunity for you to focus right in on the deck if you don't want to actually watch the onstage presentation. So roll up your sleeves, time to learn, time to take advantage of this opportunity to apply these key lessons to how your organization tackles ROI in sponsorship marketing.
It's so interesting. I think, a lot of us in these roles, the quest for us is like, how do we create something viral, right? But it comes from something so organic, and it's really, but it does have to stem from authenticity. So it's just, so as the next time someone asks you, how do you make something viral? You really have to build it organically. I think for me, the Feel Out Loud platform, like I said, a lot of folks have allowed us the creativity to actually say, we'll build a campaign around your platform. And so when people ask us to define, like, what does Feel Out Loud mean? We've heard from kids. So all of our work is driven from youth engagement and youth voices. And so they'll say, like, sometimes if I don't feel like speaking, it's what I wear, my hair color, everything that I do is how I feel out loud. And so we've been able to share that with some of the brands that we work with. And so Giant Tiger created an anti-bullying campaign around Pink Shirt Day, and they engaged actually the local, the Ottawa Art Gallery as well. And they brought all of these young people to design. So it was cool because people are really taking this idea of like what you wear, how you show up. Art is also an expression. What you sing, how you do it. All of those things are expressions of Feel Out Loud. And so we're now seeing our brand partners like a Giant Tiger bringing another partner in that actually is coming together for the platform as a whole. They designed the t-shirt. It's doing incredibly well. And what it does is it also includes a tag around, if you're looking for another way to feel it loud or a safe space to feel it loud, there's also a kids help phone. So it's those types of elements that you can actually bring now 3 entities together or multiple entities together and actually tell one message. That's what we're seeing is really kind of the power that we're seeing with our partners.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I think too, with kind of your diverse areas that you're covering and the social impact work that you're doing, I have a few questions for each of you, but I'll start with Bob, because we know as part of GE Appliances, it's a vast portfolio with several brands, right? So I wonder from a strategy standpoint, does your approach change, when you're looking at cause marketing based on the varying brands that you have? Does it change or is it the same?
Well, one thing's for sure. I feel very fortunate that I get to play with multiple brands because it makes it so fun. We have a mass brand, GE Appliances, which is intended for a mass audience, and it hits a certain price band. We have 2 other brands, Cafe and Profile, which are mass premium brands, so a little bit more upscale. And then we have a luxury brand called Monogram, which the average Monogram kitchen package is about $50,000. So you can imagine what kind of kitchen that would go into. So I think really, one thing I tell my team over and over again, believe it or not, we don't really make any decisions. We are consumer centric. So it is the consumer that tells us what to do. It tells us what our copy should say. It tells us what content we should use. As soon as you stop understanding the consumer, then all you're doing is selling to yourself. So in any of these things that we're talking about in terms of cause marketing in this case, what about our brand resonates with the consumer? So if it's a Monogram, our luxury brand, we go to take part and participate in organizations and partner with charities like a TIFF, etc.
Monogram on the red carpet. I see it now.
That's what we do, because that is, if it matches with our brand, which is definitely about entertaining and having people around the kitchen, etc. So there's definite things there. We partner with a lot of chefs. In fact, on Monday in Toronto, we're partnering with this charity called Chefs for Change, where the top chefs in Toronto get together to raise money for school children. So we're a part of that because it's natural for Monogram to be a part of that, to give back to the community. So we're bringing our mixologist. We have a mixologist, believe it or not, for our brand, and she'll be creating cocktails for obviously $600 a ticket, patrons who paid $600 a ticket. That's Monogram. That isn't something we do with GE, but definitely at every level of the spectrum. Again, it's about who is our consumer, who does the brand speak to, and what message do we want to convey while doing good at the same time.
Amazing insight. Thank you so much, Bob. And Jen, this one's for you because, of course, naturally with TIFF, you've shared some really great examples of, the organic ways things have come together and how they've evolved. But dealing with so many partners and sponsors, right? I am curious to know, how you balance the commercial sponsorships for TIFF in tandem with your cause-driven marketing objectives, right? Because it's a delicate dance, and I feel like it varies all the time, but curious of your experience with this.
Sure. And, it's really interesting because I would say that probably that's changed a bit over the last couple of years, but I would say a good solid 30 to 50% of companies who we go out and speak to still don't know TIFF is a charity. It's a whole other thing that we have to crack because we're a very glamorous looking charity, but in fact we are a charity, and everything that we do is rooted in our charitable mission. And that mission is to change the way that people see the world through film. And so it's so interesting to me because I feel like everything we do has an element of cause because that's just who we are. And if we are looking to change the way people see the world through film, that can come by way of entertainment, it can come by way of education, it can come by way of immersive experiences. And so really we work with different brands based on what their values are, where they connect to our core values, and then we find the right intersection. Sometimes they just want a package of tickets and they just want to walk down the red carpet and they want to have fabulous cocktails, maybe made by the GE mixologist. Let's see.
Monogram.
Monogram. Sorry, Monogram is right. Let's see, it's all coming together right now here in real time.
GE, you make your own ice.
That's on Festival Street. Perfect. So we've got a couple of different folks who come in. They want different things, and then there are others. We've got amazing brands like RBC, like Visa, who for decades now have been investing in a variety of our specific social impact causes because that's exactly what they stand for, and that's part of their core pillars. So we're really lucky because we can adapt. We can be both things, and I think that that's something. Either way, if you're giving us money, it's going to a good place and it's going back to the community and it's going back to the power of moving image media to connect people and share stories.
That's amazing. And I think it's great context too, because not everybody might know kind of the full vision in that capacity. So having these conversation really allows us to have a deeper understanding of your vision and your mission through TIFF. So that's fantastic. Thank you. And Jenny, this one is for you. Of course, similarly, all of your initiatives are rooted in cause marketing. So a question that we have for you is more so when it comes to balancing, these commercial funding opportunities in tandem with, strategic partnerships to always ensure, of course, that they're aligned. And you've shared some really great examples of alignment. But, when it comes down to it and your greater objectives, when you're balancing amongst the two, how are you structured, or what's your approach to this to make sure that it's aligned, but it's also continuing to maximize the benefit for the kids?
Yeah, so I kind of call myself a bit of a professional miner of facts, right? So if we can find facts and what people are trying to achieve, and there's always good ingredients, or you find out the ingredients don't mix and you're not making a good dish. So what we do internally is that we align our brand team, our strategic partnerships team, our service team, and our fundraising team. There's incredible collaboration that says, what are we trying to achieve in each of our specific realms? And then we look at, okay, from the partnership roster, who can help? So not everyone has money to bring to the table, but others can bring other values. So we bring our media partners. We've structured who do we want to reach. So if we want to reach young people, who are the ones who are doing it, who has the most eyes, and we go after essentially each of those particular brands. We figure out who has some money, who has the audience that we want to reach, and if from a service program standpoint, if there's a specific program that we want to reach an equity deserving community, we actually go deep with those brands. And so when you put them all together and you put together kind of one vision of what strategic partnerships can look like while still driving the revenue for Kids Help Phone. I think that's where we're finding that the authenticity with these elements. And that's like, it's amazing actually how folks will say, if you just start a conversation like, this isn't about money, whew, like their mind just goes, but it's like, but it is about value and what you can bring to the table. And so if we lean into each company's expertise, so to speak, or what they have to bring, we have found that that's brought together significant partnerships that now everyone can celebrate, and just gives us a bigger platform to be able to reach out.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving us a snapshot into your mind and how you've been successfully able to navigate all of this.
Team sport for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's it, right? Like you have to know who you are internally to know, where you're going to go.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And just to, looking ahead now, we've had such amazing discussion and conversation, and I think we've learned so much from each of you. Would love to hear each of your thoughts. If you're peeking into the future and you're looking ahead as it comes to cause-driven marketing, what bold predictions would you see? I mean, we've talked about some great examples of things that have happened just in recent years, to be honest, but from each of your perspectives, what is your thoughts looking ahead? What do you think you may expect to see?
You're the last to speak.
I think you've already seen some really, really big progress in the area of women's sports. So it would be a really cool prediction if I said women's sports is going to grow. I think everybody knows that, but I actually predict that I'd say within the next 10 years, the commercialization, monetization of women's sports will be on the same level as men's sports. I'm talking all the major league sports properties. There will be female versions of them, and it won't be considered this is this is basketball and this is women's basketball. It'll be basketball with these guys over here and basketball with these ladies over here. It will be on an equal footing, and in some cases could even surpass certain sports where the men play. So that from a sponsorship standpoint, there are huge opportunities there. It's like buying a house, getting in, or buying a business and getting in on the ground floor. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities there, especially not just to market to women. If you go to a Toronto Scepters game, because unfortunately I said I had to live in Toronto now, women's hockey, half the audience are moms, dads, brothers are there cheering on the sisters in the game. So it is a true family event. Right now it's affordable, it's exciting, it's fun. Sky's the limit. So I really predict, hopefully in my lifetime, so definitely within, I'd say the next 5 to 10 years, that entire dynamic is going to increase exponentially.
Amazing, thank you.
So the note that I made, this was a prompt that we got before the session. So I was really thinking about it. I'm like, well, I feel like for the past couple of years, most of us have been on some level of a roller coaster with our businesses. I think it's just the nature of the world, the economy, political influences. So agility has been a word that we're using a lot, the agility of our strategy and the agility of campaigns, and how agile can we be every step of the way, because what we're planning today is probably not going to land in the same way as we think it would, 6 months down the line. It's really, really hard to predict where everyone's heads and hearts are going to be over the next any period of time. But that's why agility is key, but staying true to your customers and staying true to your customers' values is really at the heart of it. And you have to always stick with that and keep your finger on the pulse of where their minds and hearts are, and then obviously just ensuring that those shared values are consistent with the partners that you're working with. And we see a lot of partners, their values are starting to shift, or they're being forced to shift in some cases. So it's a really interesting challenge. So I always think now more about loyalty. I mean, I also oversee the loyalty team at TIFF, and loyalty will really be top of mind as we continue to live through these incredibly volatile economic circumstances, social economic circumstances and political instability as well. And I would say this year's been an interesting one for us on that front because it's TIFF's 50th edition. And obviously, a really exciting time for us to be planning, an amazing campaign and really celebrate all the hands that build TIFF and the audiences that build TIFF. We're the world's friendly festival. We're known as the world's most welcoming festival. We are the world's largest public festival. So what we know to be true, and it will be true no matter what happens, socially or politically or economically, is that we need to honor our loyal audiences, because without our audiences, we actually have nothing. We have no product for our partners. We have no product for any of our other stakeholders. So honoring audiences will be at the core of anything that we do, and that loyalty to them and their loyalty to us will be the thing that doesn't require any agility.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, to close this out, Jenny.
I would say I'd love to see the shift of letting the causes lead. If brands are really looking at, what are our values? How do you tell an authentic story? There is so much innovation that's happening in the not-for-profit and charitable sector because we have to. We only have so many. Do you want to have pennies? We have so many nickels to rub together, right? So a ton of innovation has to happen there. So when you're thinking about storytelling and how to connect with a brand, with your audiences, your customers, and whatnot, I'd love to see that shift to letting the cause lead in some ways, so that it's not a brand delivering a campaign to say, hey, do you want to do this? It's actually working together with charity and actually uncovering their insights and the impact they're trying to make, and then aligning, again, those ingredients back to your corporate brands. And then for Kids Help Phone as a whole, we sponsored, actually, we did rub a couple nickels together, and we sponsored at the Elevate Festival this year. And people are like, what is a charity, social service charity, doing at a tech festival? Well, we're actually an innovation-based charity with a laser sharp focus on youth mental health. So we decided that, we need to, what's the company we want to keep now? So we actually want to keep more tech-based, innovation-based, generative AI-based as we start to evolve our service. So we see our marketing and cause elements actually moving more in the innovation space. As we explore what generative AI looks like for young people, we can then translate that actually to connect with trusted adults as well. So again, it's just an opportunity to let causes lead, and then have the partnerships and brands kind of come together and help us make it come to life.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And with that, our session comes to a close. So thank you all very much. We've had an opportunity to really cover how purpose-led partnerships can drive real impact that we're seeing every day. And it's always been important, and it's just more and more so at the forefront. So thank you to our experts here today that were able to share some really great examples, and hopefully we've all taken some really valuable insights from everybody. And of course, we know that we have a live recorded session today, so we can access this online. So we encourage you to stay connected, get on the app, and enjoy the rest of your time this weekend. Thank you for joining us.